that have or will present themselves to us. It seems to me that many of us have difficulty discerning the motivations, energy, and overall fit of relationships, experiences, and opportunities. Often people say, I should have known better, or why didn't I listen to my spirit? Or why didn't I pay attention to the signs that were blaring right in front of me? And of course, we often say these types of things in hindsight when we are in trouble, when chaos has ensued, when we are depressed or anxious, or when we have to find strategies to get ourselves up out of the consequences of the situations we have invested ourselves within. And I'd like to just offer some tidbits for why we might not be able to discern the vibes, if you like to call them, that are staring us in our face, or share some of the reasons why we might not follow our God given intuition or feelings related to our experiences, or relationships, or opportunities that are presented to us. Number one, I think that many of us are not consistently in tune with our own truth. We live in a society where we have been socialized to really ingest and introject the opinions and the ideas of others as our own truth. It starts in our early development, during our developmental history. It starts through our relationship with our parents, our teachers, our early peers, where we are susceptible to the opinion and the modeling and the instructions of others. And oftentimes, when we become adults, we don't take the time or the space to really deconstruct the values in which we have ingested or internalized, and decide whether or not we wish to continue to believe or to take on or navigate our lives in context to how we've been socialized. And so, as a consequence, we really don't always find ourselves in tune with our authentic selves. That is what I define as truth. That God given divine unction or intuition or way of being that brings us joy, that brings us fulfillment, that brings the passion in us out. We often are not connected to that truth. We allow the perceptions or opinions of others to take us often in totally different directions that are in contradiction to our inner truth. We choose careers, we choose jobs. Oh my, we even buy property, cars, we live in places that are not necessarily those places or experiences that bring us joy or that allow our passions and creativities to flow, but that are in sync to how we think others are perceiving us, or really sometimes we do things to make others happy or not to rock the proverbial boat. And as a result, we walk in fear. We don't trust ourselves. And that lack of self trust continues to build up a vibrational traction of attracting situations, experiences, and people that are actual mirrors to our inability or unwillingness to be authentically who we are meant to be. And so we draw and attract inauthentic people. We draw and attract inauthentic situations. We draw and attract inauthentic experiences that disallow us to be who we are meant to be and to walk in our divine truth. And well, before I go forward with some sort of strategies, let's just go on with some other reasons why we often don't live in our truth, or we often don't allow our intuition to guide us, or we often don't listen to our internal discernment. Number two, the second reason why that happens is Many of us are often operating from a place of unresolved pain. You see, as a result of our developmental histories, many of our developmental histories, we have internalized negative ways of feeling and negative ways of seeing ourselves and being. And these unresolved, internalized experiences often get expressed through our life decisions, through our actions, through the way that we see ourselves and the way that we treat ourselves and we treat others. You see, nothing can be conquered until you identify. Nothing can be shifted. The vibrational energy, if you want to call it that, that traction, that negative vibrational traction as a result of unresolved pain can never be shifted, realigned until you properly understand where you are and the reasons for from which you are at that particular place emotionally. So it's really important for us to understand our unresolved pain. It's important for us to understand, not just cognitively, but affectively or emotionally, the impact of these negative internalized experiences on our sense of self and our identity. In other words, the pain often makes it difficult for us to feel anything beyond the pain. Many of us are wondering why we can't feel and can't be in touch with intuition or can't discern properly. And many of the reasons that is because the pain, the unresolved pain, is blocking our God-given divine capacity of discernment. And so we've got to acknowledge the pain. We have to realize it. We have to understand it and own it. How do you expect to be connected or in sync with yourself when you are controlled by pain and the psychological and spiritual implications of that unresolved pain? Anything unresolved takes on a vibrational energy of its own and then gives you the consequences, or shall we say, the babies that are birthed from that unresolved pain. Number three, many of us also have gotten used to the narratives of chaos and confusion. We just really have gotten used to living in the place that we are living. And I'm not just talking physical place. I'm talking about that emotional, psychological, and spiritual place. It's become a place of normality. We have just gotten used to narratives of fear, narratives of ambiguity, narratives of pain, narratives of oppression and depression. You listen to some of the things in which people say, "Oh my goodness, I'll never go beyond this. Oh my goodness, life is bad. Oh my goodness, Trump is destroying the world. Oh my goodness, I'm oppressed. Oh my goodness, I am depressed," etc., etc. We often lead with narratives of chaos, narratives of confusion, narratives of limitation, narratives of lack. And of course, as you understand the law of attraction, those words take on a vibrational traction and give you back experiences that mimic and mirror the words in which you speak. That's why the proverbial scripture says life and death are in the power of the tongue. You got to be careful about what you're speaking, because your narratives can cause you to experience life or cause you to experience death. So we've gotten used to our narratives of chaos and our narratives of confusion. And often our relationships and experiences, although non-helpful and unhealthy, become familiar to us. And for many people, they become familiar because it's what they've seen growing up. They've experienced it. They saw it modeled through their parents, through their uncles and aunts. And although they may feel at times there's got to be more, or this is not right. They often are overburdened by the fact that this is what I know. This is normal to me. This is what I've experienced. They don't feel like they have, many people don't feel like they have the psychological, spiritual, and emotional tools that it takes, or capacity that it takes, to live out of a new perception, or out of a new lease, spiritual lease. And I really want to really combat that and encourage you to think more deeply about your capacity. Each and every one of you are divine by nature. What do I mean by that? I don't mean that in a religious way. I mean to say that each and every one of you have a power, have a capacity, have a creativity that if you tap into it, that you will and could experience life in unimaginable ways. But you are marred down by developmental histories, trauma, marred down by the expectation and perceptions of others that cause you to take on, internalize, introject these values about yourself and the world that then cause you to speak that out. And every time you speak that out, you recreate that same kind of narrative, that same type of, shall we say, spiritual vibration. So we have to be careful about our narratives of chaos and confusion that often disenable us to really discern what we get ourselves involved with. Many of us have gotten used to things not working. You know, we've adopted this religious old school ideology that struggle is what makes you strong. Oh, I've got to struggle because that's a sign of my anointing, or that's a sign of my power, that's a sign of my capacity and resilience. And I want to just challenge that and say that much of that is real slave mentality, real lack mentality. It only works because that's what you believe. And I want to challenge you and say that life is not about struggle. Life was never meant to be a struggle. We have incorporated those ideals from religious ideologies. We've incorporated those ideas from moral values and models that are useless for us because we know better. That life and divinity, God, spirit, however you want to conceptualize that, is good. And life is to be good. And certainly there are lessons to be learned in life. There are the contrast, as Abraham Hicks talks about, but we are not designed to struggle in life. We struggle because we have not tapped into these universal laws. We struggle because we are mired down by developmental histories that we've internalized through traumatic experiences. We struggle because we are not in touch with our divine resource within. But life is not a struggle. And if you begin to shift your narrative, if you begin to look at life as an adventure, as an opportunity, then that which you believe will begin to manifest itself in your day-to-day experiences. You'll find that people are not against you. You'll find that things will just begin to work out. You'll find that things will begin to unfold in your favor. You'll find that your preferences will begin to present themselves because that is what your attention is focused on. It's not focused on what you don't want, but it is focused on what you do want. It is focused on your divine preferences. It is focused on your good. And whatever you focus on has to come back to you. So I challenge you to think about the narratives that you have spoken and continue to speak, and whether or not those narratives serve you well in being able to discern what to do and where to go and who to be involved with. And lastly,